Hey there, dear YouTube audience, and welcome back to a new episode of GIANTainment Sapphic book review. It has been, or it still is, July as of me recording this. Yesterday was actually the local Christopher Street Day that I am a part of the organization team at. Had my first on-stage appearance as a rapper in my 20 years of rapping. So, you know, actually that was like, what was a fucking awesome experience. I'm still searching for someone who actually did the recording for that, but yeah, 1 month too late, you would say, but obviously there are still Christopher Street Days all the way up until October, I think, so we are a little bit late on that maybe, but that's just, you know, goes to show you that career visibility is obviously important throughout the entire year. With that being said, yeah, we're still basically in full on Pride Month, you know, July. It's still, you know, all day, yeah, sure, all day, every day. And it is also time for a new book. Now, I actually look at the episodes that I released so far for this year, and actually I've been only reading 4, 5, 6. This is the 6th book I've read this year, and we're already in month 7. So last year I read like I think 12, and I started in May. So maybe I'm slowing down a little bit, not entirely sure. But obviously it's not about, you know, how fast or how many books you've read. I mean, I've seen people obviously on Goodreads that read like one that at this point, at the point of me recording this in July, 19th of July, they are at their 250th book or something. But the thing is, like, do you really enjoy them? Do you really, you know, do you really know what's going on in the books after all? Do you really enjoy reading them? And, you know, I for myself, obviously, I take my time. That's why the ranking at the end of the year is going to be a little bit, you know, I mean, last year, 2 hours and 40 minutes for, I think it was like 13 books or something that I've read. So, yeah, we're going to see how in-depth it's going to be for the end of this year. But yeah, we are on episode 6 for this month. We are in July, and the next book, or the book that I'm reviewing today, is a book by, hold up, gotta get the blurb ready, is by Rebecca Thorne. It's the first installment in the Tomes and Tea series, and it's called Can't Spell Treason without T. And I would say, as per usual, we're just going to take a look at the, or we're just going to read the blurb, and then I'm going to go into the review. A heartwarming journey brimming with jeopardy, magic, and a love of tea for fans of Travis Baldry and T.J. Klune. They wanted to open a cozy bookshop. They discovered a world of adventure. Raina and Kianthe dream of opening a friendly bookshop together, serving the very best tea and cakes. Worn wooden floors, plants on every table, firelight drifting between the rafters, all complemented by love and good company. But Raina is an elite bodyguard to a vengeful queen, and Kianthe is the most powerful mage in existence. Leaving their lives behind seems impossible. Yet, they flee to Thorne, a town nestled in the icy peaks of Dragon Country. There, they open the bookstore they'd always wanted. Insert from me, the store is called New Leaf. What follows is a tale of mishaps, mysteries, dragons, and a murderous queen throwing the realm's biggest temper tantrum. And two women will discover what they mean to each other and their world. Can't Spell Treason Without Tea is a gorgeous treat of a book filled with cozy adventure, sapphic romance, and good feelings. The story continues in the swashbuckling A Pirate's Life for tea. As you all know, so far, I've always said, I think for every single installment of this episode, that I'm still going out and, you know, to basically see what kind of genres there are in terms of like sapphic romance and also themes, I would say. And this one is another first one for me, because this is couple-wise, in terms of like genre, I would say. This is, you know, you have like enemies to lovers, you have Ice Queen, stuff like that. This one is the first one where we already have a couple that is already established, which is an interesting thing. So we don't have that little bitter and bander and will they be together and stuff like that. They are already a couple at the point where the book starts off. And theme. So this was like the biggest thing for me, because I was convinced, like, this is a fantasy-themed book, obviously, as you heard, like Dragon Country and stuff like that. There's a dragon fight in there, but I'm gonna get into that later. And I always thought that, you know, I love fantasy, is the thing. If I play games, you know, like Tainted Grail, stuff like that, I love being a wood elf, you know, I love archery, I love magic, I love like all of the fucking fantasy settings. The Total War Warhammer fantasy thing, that was fucking amazing. I love that. It's fucking awesome. But I think like for books, also in the Sapphic genre, usually that's probably my biggest gripe, is that they are just too fucking long, you know? Like the ideal book for me, like length doesn't really matter, you know, as long as I'm entertained, obviously. But the thing is like, even if I enjoy myself, I would still think like, you know, I would actually, you know, like to pick up another book, and then people would say, yeah, you can, but the thing is like, then I can't really fully invest myself into that new book, you know, it's kind of a weird conundrum. That's why I know that Priory of the Orange Tree or something like that is probably like the biggest Sapphic fantasy romance novel that is out there. But I think this book has like, I don't know, 600-700 pages or something like that. So that is a lot of work, obviously, to go through. So I was like thinking, you know, maybe like the whole, also for Sapphic things, like the reason why I'm reading Sapphic novels is pretty much to get a glimpse. Like if it's historical, obviously the Jess Forrester one is just the best book that I've ever read. Breaking from Frame, that I've read this year. That there's also an episode about that on the podcast, so you know, check that out if after this one. To just see basically how the Sapphic community, like what they struggle with nowadays, if it's for historical, obviously, how it was back then, and how they basically overcame the patriarchy and stuff like that. So that's just an interesting glimpse into that. And for fantasy, you don't really get that. Sure, you know, you have like more. You can be more liberal because you have world building and stuff like that. But it's not necessarily what I really want in or out of a Sapphic book, I thought. Because now, you know, I'm obviously still, you know, open to everything. So that's why I chose this one specifically. Now, if you look at Goodreads, the book has a 3.7 out of 5 rating. And actually 6,920 reviews. And if you just look at it, if you just scroll down, there's a lot of hate for this book. Like the first thing that pops up is a 2-star rating, then a 1-star, another 1-star. A did not finish is in there, a 2-star, a 2-star. So a lot of fucking hate for that book, which I don't understand. Now, the thing is, this book is basically... There's a book that opened this whole cozy fantasy kind of setting. And, I mean, it says right at the beginning, it's for fans of Travis Baldry and TJ Klune. I'm pretty sure those are the writers, I think. And she also, Rebecca Thorne also mentioned in the book at the end, I think, she also mentioned that, how was it called? This series is obviously called Tombs and Tea. And I think... Yeah, also someone mentioned right here Elder Scrolls, obviously, absolutely. Well, that was me, that was my review. Absolutely, that too. But someone mentioned it, but I can't really find it right now. I looked it up earlier, but there's like a cozy, like someone said it is basically that book, but a bad fan fiction of it. Legends and Lattes, that's what it was, right? I think that's also like the series basically of the entire franchise. But here we have the Tombs and Tea series. I think we are at 3 books. Let me check that real quick. 4. Jesus Christ, 4 books. Okay, never mind then. This is the first installment out of that. So as we already established, we have Reyna and Kianthe. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that wrong. They basically spell it out in the end how you pronounce it, and then I was like, okay, in my head I always pronounce it wrong. It was a little bit more different. But yeah, GIANTainment being, I'm just gonna call him GIANTainment because, you know, that's how I always read it out in my head, and there's nothing gonna change that. Yeah, it's the book features Rhaena and GIANTainment. Rhaena basically being a bodyguard for Queen Tillane, I think was her name. Let me check that real quick. Queen Tillane, exactly. Basically, Queen Tillane is, Jesus fucking Christ. I'm gonna get that out at some point in this review. But Queen Tillane basically is a tyrant to her entire country, or yeah, country basically that she rules over. If someone basically sneezes during her speech or something, there's a high percentage chance that they actually get beheaded. Literally like the shortest temper you could ever think of. And Rhaena is the bodyguard, and GIANTainment is the mage of ages, basically like the most powerful mage that is out there. She like the leader also of the mages council, basically. Like think of I thought of like even though I don't really like Skyrim, I like Morrowind and Oblivion more, but think of the Magicary basically in Skyrim. That's kind of the thing, you know, where all the mages basically learn and gather and stuff like that. And you have the Stone of Seeing, which basically picks out the next Arkandor, which is the Mages of Ages, and that happened to be GIANTainment. Now, the way these two met is interesting because in the first, like, you never get to notice. You just know that they are already together. At the end, however, is a prologue, basically. There isn't... Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there is anything after you know, you have like an epilogue basically at the end of the book sometimes. This one actually at the end has a prologue where you basically get to know how they actually first met each other, which is an interesting way to do it because, you know, you could do that at the beginning, but it also makes kind of sense to put it at the end because that's, I guess, Rebecca Thorne wrote that afterwards, so just because people were like, oh, actually, how did they met and stuff like that, you know, would be cool to know. So maybe she posted that somewhere and then she was like, you know, can also fit that in the book, and then, you know, just slid it in there. Because it also doesn't make sense to have an epilogue in this book because there are multiple books in this series anyways. But yeah, this is basically how you get to know how these two even met. The thing is, it says cozy fantasy. And some of the reviews actually mentioned that it's like, it is extremely high stakes actually. It's not, like, the only thing that is cozy about this is like the downtime basically. Like you have, like everything moves the plot around, but you have also some time to breathe in this book. Like there's always this overlying thing that Queen Tillane obviously sends assassins out to Rhaena because Rhaena basically abandoned her post without noticing anyone, and that basically counts as treason, aka can spell treason without T, and that's why, like, she has her spies pretty much in every fucking province, even if she doesn't govern that specific province or that specific country or whatever. That's why they go to Thorne. Thorne is basically a place that is not governed by anyone. I think it's like right at the cusp between, I think it was the Magicary actually, where GIANTainment is from, and the Queendom, which is obviously where Rhaena is from. And the high stake, or the overlying fear, as I mentioned, is always that there are some spies, and obviously they would recognize Rhaena because she is like the best guard she ever was. Also like the best swordsman that you can find. She has like blades hidden around everywhere. Every blade is dipped in like poison to make sure that, you know, if you get a hit in, that they will eventually, against your enemies, that they will eventually die. And obviously Rhaena also knows that and knows about the problems with that. And that is the overlying fear that is always present. So you never really get to fully get cozy in that sense. That is the first thing. Second one is you have like a downtime where they basically set up the shop. Obviously, the thing is also with Thorne is there are, I think they're called like Lee lines, basically, which is how much magic you can get from your surroundings. And Thorne has a really low Lee line, so the magic drain that eventually happens. Think of like if you play fantasy games and you go for magic, then obviously, you know, you have a specific amount of magic, and once that is depleted, you have to regenerate it. And that's also right here. Like, she's basically usually like as the Mage of Ages in every, like in the Queendom even, or also in where she's from, you have like level, I don't know, 50 magic, so she can go fucking haywire and not ever run out of mana in this sense. And here in Thorne, which is like a small town, not governed by anything in particular, they're pretty, as I said, they are like at the border, kinda. So no one has like too much to say in this whole region. The ley lines are really fucking bad, so she can't use her full capabilities. Like if she's level 50 outside of Thorne, when the ley lines are good, she's level 50. Right here, she's like maybe, I don't know, level 3 or something like that. So it's really, really, really bad. So she has to basically really watch out how she uses magic and for what she uses it, basically. She uses it for an Everflame, which I remember, which is like basically in their tea shop. The tea shop before they set up, was actually a bandit hideout. And that is also like a thing, basically. What they do is Reyna basically tells all the bandits that come that they are there on an arrangement from their bandit boss or whatever. And obviously, you know, the bandits believe that. They get in there because, like, if they wouldn't, then, you know, Reyna could just fucking kill them. That's fucking obvious. But they are they're an absolute assess to the town. Absolutely. Like everyone in this town like gets an introduction. That was like the downtime, you know, they set up the shop and they get to know the people. The people are really cool. Like, it's a small town. Everyone knows each other. And then, you know, once these two come in, they have like this bookstore. You can read books from pretty much everywhere around the county. Not only in like from the Queendom itself, but also from like other countries. That was, and then what this book also has is you have two instances where, or actually one instances where each of the main of our couple, basically Reyna and GIANTainment, they are bedridden and the other one has to take care of him. For Reyna, you would think like that must have been an epic battle, how she got fucking, you know, almost at the cusp of death, but she fought for it or something. No, she fell off the roof. She was feeling ill the entire day, but then she went back up on the roof. GIANTainment basically helped them because there was like a storm coming, and she helped them, you know, stay dry because, you know, she can control like the weather basically, or prevent the raindrops from actually falling on them, so she doesn't get even more sick than she already was. And then she just slips, falls off the roof basically, almost breaks her back, and then GIANTainment has to take care of her. And for GIANTainment, actually, as I mentioned, you know, for Reyna and her background, you would think it's a spectacle how she's bedridden, but that was that. She toppled from the rooftop. For GIANTainment, however, she battled, I think it was actually 6 dragons. The dragons always attack Thorne. They knew that before, and that is another overarching high-stakes fucking thing. First, you have the guards, you know, that's basically, or not the guards, the spies, basically, that's, you know, they could be anywhere, and they search for Reyna, absolutely, there's no mistaken, they do. And if they find her, obviously, she gets sent back to the Queen. Either she gets arrested or killed on the spot, or they drag her over to Queen Tulane to get beheaded there, probably. But that is the first. Second one is, the town is always attacked by dragons. And obviously they have to figure out why that is. Now, GIANTainment is bedridden, speaking of dragons, because she fought off 6 dragons. And the way that fight is depicted in this book is fucking amazing. Also, how the dragons are depicted. You get a glimpse into how dragon magic works. If a mage gets injected, basically, by a dragon with dragon magic, then that mage would probably die. And given that the ley lines are really fucking bad in Thorne, GIANTainment basically makes a deal or a pact with the dragon after they find out why they always attack the town. I'm not gonna say anything about that, you know, read the book for yourself, so you have a little bit of a mystery going on, but there's also like the second big plot point that I want to touch upon later on. So you get this dragon fight, and then the dragon basically giving her some dragon magic, otherwise she would have been dead. And, He basically just stands in front of, like after GIANTainment is basically already on the ground in Dragon Country because she had to go into Dragon Country to actually fight with them. She also has a griffin that she rides on, which is Whisk. Who obviously couldn't really, you know, protect her that much afterwards. Whisk basically just picked up Reyna to, you know, get faster to GIANTainment. But yeah, the dragon was basically in front of her, and Reyna just saw it as the dragon is getting ready to attack. The dragon, the size of the dragon, one eye of a dragon is basically as big as like 5 people stacked on top of each other, I think. Or was it 3? I think it was 3, something like that. Big ass fucking beast, obviously. And Reyna stands in front of the dragon. Obviously, you know, when you commune with magic then and you're a non-magic user, then you can understand it. So she just saw it as the dragon staring GIANTainment down and waiting for the final blow. She picked out her sword, stood in front of GIANTainment to protect her, and she, in her head, she was like, okay, I can't fucking kill this thing, but if I'm gonna protect GIANTainment, my best chances is I'm gonna dash to the left and then just, you know, use my sword and put it in the eye. That should do some damage. So she was ready to fucking fight against that dragon. When later on, she actually understood that the dragon, in order for GIANTainment to survive, because they made a pact, again, I'm not gonna say what it was, but you know. But yeah, they made a pact, so the dragon infused her basically with a little bit of dragon magic, enough for her to survive. But dragon magic also, as I mentioned, is like extremely, I think it was like poisonous. So she suffers not only from magic drain, but also from being injected with a magic that would be basically a death sentence to everyone that is not the Mage of Ages or has like the Stone of Seeing to... Was it the Stone of Seeing? I think it was. To basically, quote-unquote, protect her in that sense. There were also people from the magic carry coming over because Reyna didn't know how to... And no one in the town... Like, we have one town nurse, but she also doesn't know how to... What to do for magic drain. So people from... they contacted people from the magic carry to actually come over, and they were thinking that GIANTainment was basically already dead. But they actually made sure that, you know, GIANTainment is then taken care of, even though they had like this... I think I put it in the video here also, where they basically discussed already who the successor should be or who it could be, because the Stone of Seeing basically picks the next successor. Which goes to show you also like the level of connection Reyna and GIANTainment have, because Reyna doesn't see GIANTainment for the Mage of Ages or for the Arkandor or for any kind of benefit. She sees GIANTainment for GIANTainment, which is what some people can't do. And that's also actually why they went like a little bit undercover in the town. Because they didn't want people to look at them differently or, you know, ask for favors because she's the Arkandor. She wanted to be known for what she is and what she can provide to the city. But then obviously after GIANTainment literally fought off 6 or 7 dragons, then obviously, you know, people were like, that's fucking amazing, you know. But they also, you know, still see her for who she is. Another thing that we have in this book, or in this town of Thorne, is that we have, given that it's on the brink of the Queendom's influence, we have Diarn Feo, which interestingly enough is like a non-binary character, and then we have, I forgot his name sadly, but it was like a really cool character. But it was, think of a mayor, quote unquote, that Queen Talaine basically puts in the city to govern over it, even though they don't really have an influence, but she just wants to know basically who is in there, are there resources, obviously, to spy on Reyna as well. And both of them, they don't, like, the Diarn Feo and that I'm just gonna call him Mayor, they don't like each other, they don't talk to each other, they claim that they have like more of a say over the town. But Reyna and GIANTainment, respectively, they go to, I think Reyna goes to the Queendom Mayor, because he is from the Queendom. Also turns out that Queen Talaine actually, like his father was the mayor before for Thorne, and he asked the queen if she can, you know, send reinforcements because there were constant dragon attacks, and she took that as a sign of weakness. She put her in Actually, no, it was like it was at that point when his father got pretty much killed in that sense. Queen Telaine was still the princess, but the queen at that time actually asked the princess what the punishment should be, and I think they threw him, the mayor, or the mayor's father in that case, they threw him in. They threw him somewhere with anything to eat and stuff like that. It wasn't really a death sentence, but kinda. And they sent him back to Tawny, and it was like he just asked for fucking reinforcements, and she just saw that basically as a sign of weakness. So that obviously he's not a fan of Queen Telaine at all, and she knows that Rhaena, or he knows that Rhaena defected, obviously, and then it was like, yeah, if I see any spies, you know, I'm gonna let you know, I'm gonna make sure that they don't find you, and I'm gonna make sure, like, everyone that basically is a defector from the Queensdom is, you know, is really good in this town, and we definitely need that. Also, Chianthe at that point, she actually talks to Diarn Feo. She goes in with, by basically using plans basically to strangle like the guards to just get herself into the place. And Diarn Feo is like is a tough character, but at the end, you know, he's obviously like an asset that everyone needs, and they also work together in order to solve that mystery as to why the dragons actually attack Tawny over and over again. And the thing is, at the end, that is like the big thing. Like Chianthe makes a pact with the dragons, and she also says, like, you know, or Rhaena asked, like, how much time do we have until they fucking attack again? And then also Chianthe says, well, we can it could take like 100 years. Like the feeling of time basically is completely different from a dragon, which reminds me of Elder Scrolls. And you have the deities, you have like Azura and, you know, all the Daedric gods basically, and for them time is also like a constant. Like everything that happened in the past is happening all the time, and also everything that happens in the future also happens concurrently, which is a tough fucking thing to grasp. But also the time span of a dragon, what to us is basically a year, for them could be like 100 years or something. So she said, like, we have more than enough time for that. Taking out a little bit of that urgency. But then I'm also asking myself, how long are they gonna live? You know, because in that sense, you know, maybe. But yeah, apparently they have more than enough time, but obviously they have to get going to, you know, get the plot going. And the way this actually happened, when they actually got Diarn Feo and the mayor together to actually figure out why the town is constantly attacked by dragons, happened at like 70% of the book, where it goes deeper into that mystery. And I was like, this is like the big point basically of the book, which is kind of weird. That you can't chalk that up in like 30% when there's only 30% left of the book. And it ended off the cliffhanger of them not being able to actually, like, you get at the end, you get like a little bit of like a hint, but the mystery isn't solved yet. And I was like, well, this is fucking bullshit, because this is like the whole fucking thing. But then I found out, obviously, there are like four books, I think, more, right? Yeah, there are 4 more books in this entire saga, so I didn't know that at the time, but yeah, makes sense. So it ends actually really good, because right at the end of the book, like, I think it was a little bit rushed, because it was like 15% left or something. The spies actually find Rhaena, and the person that finds Rhaena, I forgot his name because I hate that fucking guy, but he basically was over infatuated with Rhaena, even though she said, you know, she likes women, but that guy didn't take the fucking hint. But he apparently, he was seeking a personal invitation, something like that, from the queen to actually hunt Rhaena down, which he successfully did. So one of the guards found her, and that's when Chianthe actually finds out that Rhaena had this planned all along. Like, she had a plan going, and I'm not gonna say what it was, but it has a happily ever after. As I mentioned, the mayor and Diarn Feo, they actually get also closer together, as they have to work together on the case to actually get somewhere. Then you have Rhaena and Chianthe basically going. Not quite, like, Chianthe says it's a vacation, but Rhaena actually says, like, sorta, but, you know, we also obviously have to take care of that fucking mystery, obviously, while we're doing it. And they have to go out of town to actually get to the bottom of it. And that's when, you know, the second book, A Pirate's Life of Tea, comes into place, or 4 tea. And then we have book 3, Tea You at the Altar, and then number 4, Alchemy and a Cup of Tea. I see what you're doing, Rebecca Thorne. With all that being said, you know, as I mentioned, like the cozy part of the book is literally in between all of what I just described. It's a lot, you know, there's a lot of shit happening, a lot of fucking action going on, a lot of mystery, a lot of intrigue, a lot of uncertainty. But you have these two that basically go into the small town. No one knows them, but they immediately hit it off. There are cool side characters. One side character, actually, that's her life is also threatened by the assassin that basically comes from the Queensdom. Basically, Rhaena isn't there when he arrives, so he's basically just like, oh yeah, I remember you. That was Mathilde. She's like the town nurse. They frighten her, obviously, because they said like, well, if Rhaena doesn't come over, you know, then I'm just gonna take you or just gonna kill you on the spot because you're also deflected. So they also recognize that she was in the Queen's next, basically, influence. Or at the Queen's court, basically, as a, what was it, like a maid or something like that? Something like that. But yeah, the way it is resolved at the end is really fucking good. Like, Rhaena absolutely did the best job ever. She talks with GIANTainment about her plan, and basically we don't get to know that because, you know, that is at the end of the book. But yeah, GIANTainment was like, yeah, she didn't expect that Rhaena was this well prepared for it. And there's also this thing I mentioned, GIANTainment rides on a griffin, which is Visk. And Visk actually also has kids later on. Like, they basically have eggs. And Rhaena, or Visk actually wants Rhaena to have one of the eggs, basically. Like, she gets her own griffin. And Rhaena asks also GIANTainment, like, well, you have to, like, it's not gonna recognize me as its mother. And then, or like, you have to tell me how to, or teach me how to tame them. And then GIANTainment basically was like, yeah, you don't tame them. That's just like a life bond. And, you know, Visk told you it's okay to, you know, like, Visk wants you to be the father, or the father, to be like the mother, or like, you know, bound to that griffin. So that would be interesting to see in the next book how big that griffin actually goes, because it actually hatches at the end. To the dismay, actually, of GIANTainment, because Rhaena took so much fucking care, and it was like, yeah, it's an egg, you know, like, calm the fuck down, you know. But it's cool to see how caring actually Rhaena is for literally when that thing is just an egg. Like, oh, is it warm enough? Is there a blanket? Did it roll somewhere? You know, like, make sure that it's still there, make sure it's still warm, stuff like that. That was cool to see. And then obviously GIANTainment's reaction, she's like, it's fine, man, it's a goddamn egg. So that was really cool to see. In terms of spice, actually, this book has like nothing in that sense. It's pretty much fade to black. Anytime, you know, something happens. But yeah, the thing is, like, I don't get like the hate, as I mentioned. People say like there's like a specific, like, I guess, you know, people make the claim of it's not really cozy because there are constant threats and high stakes and like constant like attacks from dragons onto Thorne, and then you have like low magic there for GIANTainment to protect the people, and you have the spies that literally hunt down Rhaena because what she did, abandoning her post, is treason and stuff like that. So in that sense, yes, there is always this overlining fear, but there is also like the downtime where they build up the store, where one of them at one point or another is obviously bedridden, so the other one has to take care of them, where they actually tend to the people of the town, where they are just in their bookstore. The way they deal with the bandits, they are not a threat at all. Sometimes they just come in. They basically get an assignment from Rhaena. As I mentioned, she's like, yeah, this is like an outpost, basically. And, you know, we have the Mages of Aegis right here. You know, she's under the bandits' control or something like that. So they always take their things from, or their assignments, basically, from Rhaena. And then they, you know, sit down, drink a little bit of tea, and then they are gone afterwards. So that's also how they deal with Thorne's problems. Like, they solved the bandit problem. They solved, sorta, the dragon attack problem. The two, Diarnfeo and the mayor, basically, they work together. So they basically, you know, fixed that city from the get-go. And they also, like, the mayor also said, like, you know, it would be definitely, like, you are under our protection. You know, we care for you because losing Reyna and Chiante, both of you would be definitely a high loss. And also, we never had like such good tea and a bookstore at that in this small town. So that would also be a problem, obviously, if that is not there anymore. That is basically the downtime. That is also the point where it's like a little bit more cozy. Obviously, also when, basically when they set up the store and basically tend to the customers and, you know, get a little bit more, like have more conversations with the people in that small town, because it really has that small town, everyone knows each other, everyone cares for each other kind of vibe, especially at the end, and especially with everything that Reyna and Chiante also did for the town, obviously. And I think that pretty much sums it up. As I mentioned, people compare this obviously to the one that's kind of kicked off the whole cozy fantasy archetype, which is Legends and Lattes. I never read that. I started with this one. For that, as I mentioned, the high stakes thing is not cozy, obviously, but everything that happens in between those high stake things is pretty much cozy, I would say. And the whole Queen Tulane dilemma is pretty much fixed at the end, sorta. I'm pretty sure it goes on still in the next couple of books. That's why nothing is like really resolved at the end. But you get like more breadcrumbs, you get more towards like a solution for literally everything. Like the Queen Tulane thing isn't solved, period, but it's served for the majority, basically. And then you have like 4 more books, obviously, in that thing. I'm not going to read another one this year, but I'm definitely going to be reading it over the course of years. So next year, I'm going to read A Pirate's Life for Tea, because I saw that, like, you know, I was appalled because like the whole dragon attack thing wasn't really resolved at the end. So, and then I saw, okay, next book, like you get a glimpse into the next book, and there was no mention of Reyna or Chiante. It was like 2 completely new characters. But apparently what we have in A Pirate's Life for Tea is we have 2 new characters, and Reyna and Chiante are basically sort of side characters, and they try to get these two women together to be a couple. So they are matchmakers, but also in the meantime, they also like the whole dragon attack mystery, making sure not to spoil or anything, is also basically resolved. So, you know, you have like 2 concurrent plot lines going in the next book, which in Can't Spell Treason Without Tea was like 3 different ones. But that's the thing, like, you know, there's always something happening, but there is also always enough time to have you know, to chill out in their cozy little abode where they sell tea and books, which is what, you know, what they always wanted. So yeah, the first book where the genre is new and also the theme is new. As a fantasy book, I can tell I fucking loved it. Especially the depiction of dragons, and the dragon fight was fucking amazing. Didn't think it would be that fucking intense and good and well written, and goddamn. That was awesome. Also, you know, Chiante at that point, you know, she was a cool character, but Reyna was always the one that basically protected everyone with her assassin skills and stuff like that. You see that right at the beginning, where an assassin tried to assassinate Queen Tulane and gets stopped by Reyna. Like, fucking badass moment right there. But then, yeah, you have Chiante literally fucking shutting down 6 or 7 dragons. And you see, like, with all the different elemental magic with pretty much no mana at all. So, yeah, absolutely awesome. And then obviously, you know, Reyna and Chiante, these 2 are just like a fucking awesome couple. There's not like one miscommunication thing. Reyna definitely grows as a character in this one thanks to Chiante. Like basically Reyna comes from the queendom where it's like you have to earn something, and Chiante just loves Reyna, and Reyna can't really process that. And then, you know, later on Chiante makes fun about that, you know, and then Reyna, you know, gets the joke later on, so she has character development. So does Chiante in terms of like fighting. So I hope that in the next book there's also going to be a prominent place where Chiante just shows up her fucking magic skills again. And when that the guard actually from Queen Tulane comes into the bookstore when Reyna was out and Chiante was there, the way it's described, like how her rage basically, you know, comes when she sees Ven, was his name, right? When Ven comes through and tries to get Reyna back to the queendom, the rage that is basically described that Chiante emits is fucking awesome. Like, that's what I'm there for, absolutely. And the thing is also, when I check the books right here, this is the first book of the Tombs and Tea saga, and it has the lowest rating, 3.7. The next book has 4.06. Then the third one has 4.22, and the fourth one, at the point of me recording this on Goodreads, has 4.26. So it progressively gets better and better. So gonna be interesting to see that. Obviously, the first one also has the most ratings because it's the first in the series. And the thing is, like, you can read this and then not read the other ones, I'm pretty sure. But there are still, as I mentioned, like a lot of stuff that is not resolved. So I'm pretty sure you would also miss out on a lot. But I guess I will find that out next year, because that's when I'm going to be reading the second installment in that one. And that was the first fantasy one. Definitely, you know, better than I anticipated. I gave this 5 out of 5 because there was nothing that I disliked. I don't get the hate, because there's a lot on Goodreads for the first couple of reviews. I don't get it. Maybe it was people that already read cozy fantasy before. But, you know, Rebecca Thorne saw that, and, you know, I would say she definitely fucking accomplished it. There's high stakes, there's always something happening, there are cozy downtime things. I loved it. Cool side characters as well. One that actually, you know, is like a kid, but he's a bandit. And then Reyna basically, like, he's shit. And then Reyna basically trains him, basically being their kid, quote unquote, even though then she has, I don't know if she gave... I think she gave the griffin a name also, the one that Reyna has, that is still in the egg and hatches at the end. I think he has a name. But yeah, you have that basically. That is like their new kid at that point. And you have a good way of GIANTainment actually proposing to Reyna at the end. So that is also obviously really, really fucking good. They're just wholesome together, and it's fun to see their interactions. Also when they banter around a little bit. Obviously, you saw like a couple of quotes on the screen during the review, and you're also going to be seeing them in my ranking for this year. But yeah, man, my friends, that was it. That was the review for Can't Spell Treason Without T. Cozy fantasy, romance, high stakes. Absolutely loved it. If you are on the fence, if you like fantasy or not, definitely give this a try. Or Legends and Lattes, apparently that is like the magnum opus for, you know, cozy fantasy. But that was my first rodeo in that. Maybe Legends and Lattes, I'm also going to be reading that to see, like, you know, what the difference is there. And maybe I'm going to see Can't Spell Treason Without T in a different light. But the thing is, like, next year, A Pirate's Life for T is definitely next. And after this, I wanted to go back to my contemporary romance kind of stuff. And that is going to be the book for the next installment. I'm not going to say which one it is, but obviously my Goodreads profile is in the description below. So you can also already see which book it will be for the next installment of GIANTainment Sapphic book reviews. But yeah, definitely a 5 out of 5 from me. Again, if you are on the fence for Sapphic fantasy, cozy romance, then give it a shot, or give Legends and Lattes a shot, but I can't vouch for that, obviously. Hope you enjoyed this one, my friends, and I hope to see you all in the next episode of GIANTainment Sapphic book reviews.